I
Why are you laughing?
don't know. I
You're
get
already
giddy.
laughing.
I'm so nervous when we film. I'm not used to being on camera.
Oh, whatever. Welcome back to the Always Right podcast. I'm author Carissa DeLay, and this is my co-host,
Dara.
Jamie Vendera. Jamie.
I did that. What
Oh,
was it?
proud
What
students.
was there was that? Gosh, remember Scary Movie?
Mm-hmm.
And there was the really funny girl, and then she was in that one where she was the House Bunny, and they would repeat their names. I can't remember her name. Anna Faris.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and her name is Megan. She'd go, Megan. So she remember the names.
Oh, that is crazy. I literally just watched a TikTok because she'd be like, Olivia.
Yeah, that's what you sounded just like her.
And they're like, and they kept looking at her and she's like, that's how I remember names.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Squirrels
All
again.
right. So today we're going to talk about categories and keywords. We mentioned this one. Keywords.
Now you sound like Kermit.
Well, I know because I hurt my throat when I did it the other way, so I was trying to like not. So now
I
I'm
have
a
to give you a
Muppet.
death metal voice lesson so you can do that.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah,
All right.
I shall sign up for the Vendera Vocal Academy.
All right. First water drink.
Okay. All right.
During
So like I
filming.
said,
We have been together for like an hour, so yeah.
yeah, we did have a pre-session to go through, and we tackled a book and kind of went over some stuff. So that way, we're going to give you some pointers on the keywords and categories for loading your book into Amazon.
Yeah,
So, which we did talk about in KDP.
and this is like a bare bones basics version. This is to get you set up, and in there, keywords and categories can go so much deeper with keyword research using other services. But we just want to show you like the easiest way to kind of pick out your keywords and categories to get you started.
Yeah, and then once it's uploaded, you can go in and fine tune your stuff.
Absolutely.
If it's not working, like my book's not getting searched. You may have too vague of a keyword, and so we're going to talk about that briefly in this one. What we did with Katie's book, and then we could tackle this down the road and show you other options to kind of mess around. Once you get the basics in there, you feel like, okay, I've got it loaded. Now let's go in and like
Time
do
to get
some
serious.
nitty-gritty. Yes. All right, so categories. Categories are basic broad groups. You know, it's kind of like when we talked about summary and synopsis. It's the basics versus the more detailed. Keywords would be the synopsis, where summary would be the basics of the
Yeah,
category.
it's like if I was writing about Abraham Lincoln. That's really a keyword, but the category could be American history, historical fiction, or historical nonfiction.
Presidential. It could be even presidents. I don't know if that's
Absolutely, because you got to categorize. It's like going into the library and had the little Dewey Decimal System, and everything was separated by fantasy, horror, fiction, nonfiction.
Memory lane. That would be a very interesting TikTok trend, is bringing back the Dewey Decimal System for a trend to see how many kids could actually find a book.
Oh, it's like the one I saw with a rotary phone, and the parent said, "You two have like 10 minutes to dial this number," and they're like,
"What do I do here?
What? It moves. Do we got to take this off the handle?" I miss the rotary phones.
Oh my!
And the long cable.
I like the sound.
Yeah, I like it because it goes as quick as you could, you know, to see if it was still.
And it was always nice when your cable could reach into other rooms. Your stretchy cord.
I spent my money and bought a cable for the one in our kitchen so I could stretch it down the hallway. I was like, "Mom,
wow, high society! Look at you."
I was.
Now,
I had like a 15-foot cable.
Yeah, we're rich because we got a 15-foot cord. We can go from.
I can go from the refrigerator to the sink.
Yes. All right. All right. And so back keywords. Keywords are more like what your readers are going to search. They're going to be like, what are the things that they're going to specifically be typing in to look for your book? So that's where it can get a little bit more tricky.
Yep.
Yeah, because just moving words around can change whether or not your book is like a 10,000 plus keyword or back to like 500 searches.
Which they'll see, because we chose Katie Horsley's book because she does books on vampires. And honestly, with Twilight and Vampire Diaries and everything, it blew up. There were so many vampire books that it is really hard. So if you're publishing vampire books, more power to you. But it's like, how can we get your book seen in this sea of thousands of vampire books?
Right. So and that's kind of, we chose Catherine's book because she is in a niche environment that is so big now. So like, even though vampires are just a certain category, there's so much of it that you have to find where yours fits to be able to not be in a sea of books.
Especially in the beginning, because if you put vampires as a keyword, you may be number 12,013 or 132 down the line, because you don't have no reviews, you don't have no eyes on it, you don't have no sales, so it's tough to climb when you're just like, oh, my keyword is vampire or bloodsucker or undead, something like that. So
but that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. We talked about that because not very many people are going to actually look up bloodsucker. They may use it as a reference point, but looking up bloodsucker is not a common word for people to search a book. Yeah. Okay. So the definition, let's go in here. Definition of categories via Amazon is where your book appears in Amazon. So basically in the store. So you're going to have your category, your subcategory, and where they placement. So basically like history, US history to 19th century. So it's going to be like, it's going to break it down.
Yep.
And then you get to choose three categories, and each category gets a subcategory. And each subcategory gets one placement. So you got to be very careful, because when you choose the placement, when you're in your KDP and you see the categories, if you choose 3, you're done with your categories. All of them are placed in the same category, the same subcategory. So if you choose 3 different placements, you've lost all your options to change your categories.
Yep.
Yeah. So then after you've chose your categories, you can move on to your keywords. So Amazon gives you 3 categories. Like I said, and that's where they place your book in the store. They know basically what aisle they're putting your book on in the Dewey Decimal System. And then you've got keywords, which are basically the words you're going to give the librarian to say, this is the type of book I want to read. So you're telling whatever you're searching on Amazon, you're searching on Barnes & Noble, whatever you're searching, you get a whole filter of books. So when someone's searching your book, what are they looking for to be able to find you and not get to someone else's book?
Yeah, and to back up with my ADHD, so you understand where Chris is coming from with categories. If your book is a romance, but it's about vampires and werewolves, and I don't know the categories right off the top of my head, but if you chose romance and the subcategory was paranormal, for instance, and then a placement, and you had werewolves, ghosts, mermaids, and vampires, if you click the box for vampires and click the box for werewolves, bam, that gives you 2 categories that you've chosen, which would be romance, paranormal, werewolf, romance, paranormal, vampire. So then if you want to go back in and add fantasy and sci-fi, then thriller, then occult or something like that, that will be your 3rd. So that's how you get it. When you get down to your placement, that's where you have options to choose up to 3 in that placement. But if you do, boom, you're done.
Right.
So it may work for you.
Let's just talk about what we did to Catherine Horsley's book. So we took her first book. For those watching, this is her first book right here. This is without Windows of the Soulless, and this
fourth book is coming out soon. By the way,
yes, so that's good that we're doing this. Wow, okay. All right. Anyways, so this is her. We did her first book today before filming the podcast, so that way we can kind of give you the grounds of which we changed. We took all of her stuff off for her categories and keywords, and we completely changed them. Especially since Amazon has updated their ways with AI searching. And so when we know that AI is listening, if you're talking about certain categories and certain keywords, guess what? Yes. Guess what? It may show up on someone's feed, like you may be interested in this book right here.
Oh, so, that's all I want to see for the next few days after the amount of work we've done today. It's going to be on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah. Let's hope that's what happens. All right. Okay, so what we did with Catherine's was we removed her current, because she was only allowed to have 2 prior when we had this in there. She was only allowed to have 2 categories and subcategories. Very vague. It wasn't like, it wasn't as much as you can do now. Now it's a little bit more elongated in the path you can take and put your book on a shelf.
Yeah, okay. Now you have 3. But by the way, Chris and I will do a future podcast because you actually can add up to more categories than just 3. You can get up to 10, but that's a little secret, and we'll go over that in the future and give you that.
Yeah, we're just doing the basics.
Yep.
But this is on KDP. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is KDP,
Kindle Direct Publishing.
So this is the Kindle Direct Publishing. So we're still kind of in the back house of Kindles, but Catherine has print books. So we want to make sure people know that these are people searching Kindle books, but it's also available in print. So when you do this, don't negate the fact that you have a print book as an option for a keyword down the road.
Yeah, and also one point to bring up: if you're an author, you also want an Author Central account, so you can link all your books, because we're doing this in KDP, which is the digital version. Luckily, I have access to Catherine's full account to get in there for Author Central. We have to go in for the print book because it's published through LSI, Lightning Source.
Right.
That's something set. I have to completely set that up too.
Yeah.
Which that's another podcast.
Yeah. So we're gonna update this, and then we'll go through like print book stuff. So this is we just launched the KDP episode. So this is kind of like a follow-up episode where we talked about doing keywords and categories in that episode. So we're just gonna go ahead and do it and explain how you can get your book better on the shelf. So with hers, we selected 3 categories. We selected science fiction, romance, and mystery. Those were her 3 main category options that we were given to be able to place these books. So from the science fiction and fantasy one, that's the first category. Then you choose a subcategory, which with her, we chose fantasy. And from that, we were able to choose romantic because Nicholas Ryder in the book, there's a lot of love. There's a story, romance stuff going on, even though it's a vampire book. That's kind of the line we took that particular category.
50 Shades of Red. Well, it's not that.
Ooh, I mean, I don't think it's that aggressive. No. I mean, I don't know. Like, I know it's a little.
Don't hold back.
It's a little heated, but like it's not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Catherine, like, her books are better written than that. So that was just my personal opinion. Okay, so the second category we went to was romance. So from romance, our subcategory went to romantic suspense. And then from there, we placed it in the mysteries. So that was our best option when it comes to, it kind of breaks it down. Once you choose one, it's like, okay, from this point, here's your options. And then once you choose that, it's like, oh, here's your other options. It's almost like a spider web pathway. And then, go ahead.
It gets crazy. We were talking earlier, and as we were going this, you're like, I don't know how many is in here. And I double checked. There are over 5,000 category options the way you go through that spider web just in Kindle. There's like 16,000 for books overall on Amazon. So it can take a moment to go through these and really pick the right category that serves you.
Yeah, and if you're like, man, like so we were having trouble finding vampire at first. We were like literally trying to find like different things, and we were really trying to find different stuff. So we'd end up doing hold it here.
I forget how I found, but yeah, because you had me hop in there, and I forget what I chose. Romance, paranormal, maybe.
Yeah, well, so yeah, actually, that's what we did. I switched that. I'm lying here. We did romance. We did romance, and then I forgot we changed it to paranormal, and I forgot to screenshot that one before we changed it because I was like, I'm not finding vampires in here. So we went to the paranormal side, and that's where we found vampires. Even though a lot of times people don't think of paranormal as vampires, they think of that as ghosts and demons and stuff. Click it. You're not saving anything and seeing if your stuff's in there. So there was the vampire option in romance, paranormal, and vampires. So we got those 3 as her second option. And then we went to the mystery, thriller, and suspense category.
That's the one that got me because you searched through that, and I was like, I can't believe you found that because I thought, really, is it going to work? But you go ahead and say how the pathway went.
Yeah. So this is because we couldn't find the word horror. I'm like, I'm not finding horror anywhere because it's a vampire book. There's a lot of blood, so we want to make sure that that's in that realm. And so I was able to go mystery, thriller, suspense. I went down the suspense because at first I went down. I tried history. I tried thrillers. I tried all that stuff, and I had to go to suspense, and that's where I found horror.
And it helps because when you're on your screen, off to the side, there's a little square rectangle, and boom, boom, boom. That's where your placements will pop up. So we're looking, you're like, there it is.
Keep playing around with them later. Like, okay, if I go here, where does it take me? Where does it go here? Does it take? And you'll maybe find what you're looking for because these are not the droids you're looking for. Yeah, so you have to be very careful when you're doing that because you may have missed the mark on not finding where your book needs to go, and it may be in the wrong realm, and nobody's going to find it. Nobody's going to be interested because that's not what they're searching. So, That's categories. That's how we did Catherine's first book. We're going to update this all through the rest of her books too.
Including your Author Central, Catherine, so we will be working together on that.
Yes.
So that's another podcast we really need to do.
Oh, so we should do that one when we do a talk about the author and writing about the author. When you write about yourself, we should do an episode talking about the author and do the Author Central, kind of combine those two together.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is keywords. Now, this one was fun. It's time consuming, but it's fun if you just kind of going down this rabbit hole. And I highly suggest you either work with someone on it, like have a partner, or have your laptop and your phone open so you can kind of look at both and not have to keep going back and forth.
Yeah, because the like we said, there's many ways for you to do keyword research, but just to get you started, the basic way is you're on Amazon. So what Carissa had me do is she had Catherine's book open. She was in KDP, and we're like, try vampires. So I did. I clicked the filters, over 10,000 results. I thought, well, let's go to Kindle, over 10,000 results. Let's just go to books, over 10,000 results. So we literally had to start combining words like vampire and werewolf, vampire fiction. So you can read what we came up with.
Well, so originally, this is what we used to have. Okay, this is when it was kind of like a little bit more vague. And so, and to note, Amazon has guidelines. So they have guidelines when it comes to your keywords, so their definition, so Amazon's definition for keywords is basically the search terms that customers use to find specific types of books. That's what they state. So these can be very broad or very specific, depending on the audience that you're trying to read your book. You want to make sure that, again, we say this multiple times through the podcast, know your audience. Okay. Knowing your audience will help you with selling your book just in personal, selling your book online. So just knowing your audience when you're writing, even knowing your audience is very key throughout the entire process. And then think on how the reader would describe your book. So maybe when you're in the editing phase and you're having friends or your husband or your wife, partner reading your story, say, okay, if you were to try and look for this book, where would you go? What would be your keywords that you would search for?
I mean, honestly, someone would probably type in vampire, but you would never find it. We mentioned earlier, bloodsucker. Yeah. Who's really going to type that in? Undead. These are stressing straws. But maybe like vampire romance fiction books. Mm-hmm. If we get a little more, and I don't know if that's one we chose close, but we really, like Chris would throw these out, and I'd start changing the order of them, and I'm checking the filters to where we get them down below 10,000. A couple of these are like 1,000 searches or 518, and that's great.
Yeah, and I wrote that down. So I wrote down what we put in vaguely, and then what we got to at the end. And so, real quickly, let's go through Catherine's keywords, and then I'll give some of the guidelines when you're also searching your own stuff. That way, maybe you keep in mind some of the rules that Amazon puts out there for you. Okay, so what we originally had, I took a screenshot of this. What we originally had for Catherine's first book was vampire series, werewolves, because there are werewolves in it, life story, adult romance, need to kill, journal, bloody violence. Okay, very vague. But now that they've updated the way you can do things, we've got a little bit more specific. And like I said, and Jamie had said, we went down like a little rabbit hole, took notes of what worked and what wasn't working. So we started with the first one. We did adult vampire series, and we got over 10,000 hits. So we changed the wording to adult vampire print books, and we got 395. Okay, so that is something that Amazon actually says combining keywords in a logical order is essential, because if someone searches for military science fiction but not fiction science military, you got to keep an idea how they're actually going to search it out. So make sure your words flow how someone might actually type this out. They're not going to search it in a random mixed up order. You know what I mean? So we did that with one.
And for us, really, the word book series definitely made a difference.
Even adding an S.
Yes.
So, yeah. So this books. Yes. So we tried two ways. We did vampire serial killer and we tried serial vampire killer, and one had more than the other. So vampire serial killer had less books available. So when someone's searching that, but
which
when
is
we
good.
yeah, so we did vampire serial killer book, and we did books. And lo and behold, books had less options. So we went from, when we had the books option added to the end, we had over 2,400 found. When we added the S to the end of the word books, it went to 1,019.
Yep.
Literally,
Crazy.
yeah, literally took like 1,400 books off the charts of searching. So we got it down to at least 1,000 books, and then you can go through your Amazon filters and know that there are certain things that maybe people will like, specific look that they don't want under $5, print available, things like that. So, which is on.
I mean, it does mean less people are typing in that combination, but it also means you have less people to contend with. But people do type that in.
But if you have the word serial killer books in your category or in your keywords, if someone's searching serial killer books, your book will be in that plethora of 10,000. So when they go to filter and they're like, oh, wait, there's a vampire serial killer book, I want to see what that one is. It may bring your book up. So using these keywords still creates an umbrella that if someone wasn't technically searching for a vampire book with serial killing in it, they may find your book through that avenue. So just keep that in mind as well. Let's see, we did because her book is a little racy, little heated. Anyways, so her book is, it has some adult over 18 stuff in it. So it is adult. We tried adult vampire series books, and we got over 10,000 hits. But
many times,
yes. But when we changed it to adult vampire print books, we got 395. So see where it's kind of like you change words and you go into Amazon and you search it yourself as if you're the consumer. You're double checking to see if someone searches those keywords, what is it going to bring me up? How many people am I basically competing with to get my name towards the top? Another one we did was the vampire and werewolf book series, because of course Catherine has werewolves in the book. It's not a main thing. It's mainly Nicholas Ryder and his storyline. But there you can you're still using something that's in the book, which is one of the rules of the Amazon for keywords, is you must make sure that all your keywords have to appear in your book. So you can't write keywords that
so you can't put best book ever, book on sale. I mean, don't do that.
Yes.
You will get flagged.
Yes.
Don't type in Twilight if your book's a vampire book. Don't be using other book titles. So these are no-nos.
Yeah. So then one of the things that they say using useful keywords would be like, remember your setting. So like, is it colonial America? Is it in New Orleans? Like sometimes people like, I want to read a story about New Orleans with a heated vampire. Put it in there. Character types. Is it a single mom story? Is it someone who's a veteran of the military? Character notes. This is essential, because a lot of times now people are reading, and I told you this, first person books. People want to know that first person reader perspective. Is it a strong female character? These are things people will actually search out. So put those into your keyword if it applies to your book.
Well, along with placement in the world. I mean, it could be based in Australia. Age of the Sigil, even though we don't call it Australia, I call it Austrand. It is based in Australia. What time period? Colonial time period.
Yes.
So these are things.
Yeah. And, like, think of your plot themes. Excuse me. Is this kind of like is this a love story, coming of age? Is this a forgiveness book where there's going to be like a spiritual side to it? Is this a controversial book that's going to make you, whatever? Think of the plot theme. Put that in there. Storyline. Is this a good feel? Or not good feel? Oh my gosh. Is this a feel good? Is this a good feeling good?
Word order is so important.
Yes. Yeah. Word order is important. Most people aren't going to say good feel. No,
it's good
they're
feel.
not going to say that. They're going to say feel good. Is a dystopian. You know, some people search that out. Like, so my kids read different types of book genres. You know, I have one who's reading the Mortal Mystery or not Mortal Instruments series. Yeah, she's reading that. Like, she's read 5 of those 400-page books in a week.
Wow.
So, but you know, that's her thing. She likes that, like Twilight, that type of avenue. Where I have another one, she likes to read more kind of romantic type stuffs, quick stories, you know. And then there's sometimes she'll read some of like a fantasy type book sometimes. So yeah, they all have different types of books they read. So you got to think of your reader, like we said, what are they searching out? So if they've, or even like main points that drive people to a certain book, like I was saying, plot themes. What is it? What is the main theme? Is it the erotica if you're looking for erotica? Is it the romance if you're looking for that? Is it the teen drama? Is it the YA superheroes? Is it, what is it that people are going down the aisle of the bookstore? Go look at the bookstore. What are they drawn to, and what are people selling that's making it? And like, okay, this is where I need to put my book. This is where I want it to be on the shelf. So I have to remember this is what's driving that force. Okay, so we did do first person vampire books when I was talking about that. We did first person vampire book series, and we got 2,833 hits on that one. And then people again can filter through.
We also talked about how it was his life story, so we pitched around ideas like journal, biography. Yeah. I don't remember what we settled upon.
Vague. Yeah. Yeah. Those were very, very vague. I think I wrote that one down, but the one I'm looking at right now that we did was the vampire violence books. That was
because you said it was
that
bloody.
was the creme de la creme number. That was like, this is great.
Yeah, because what was the one that she had like bloody horror or something? Was one of the old tags?
Yeah, I can't remember the old tag
Keywords.
was. It was bloody something. Hold on here, let me look here.
Bloody violence.
Bloody violence.
There we go.
It was definitely bloody violence. And we changed it to vampire violence and added the word books.
And it brought it up the list.
74.
Yep.
74 books. So that was that was like, oh, so we did that one. But it was, I think when we were doing, when we were trying to do the journal, because the Nicholas Ryder writing his life story, we weren't having much success. So that's when I was like,
no, it was over 10,000. It was crazy. Yeah,
so that's where we did the first person vampire book series. That was like, because it is first person, so people might like first person perspective. So that was a little bit more better option than just doing a vague journal, because that was bringing up like personal journals of like historians or like historical figures or whatever. You were kind of getting in that mix and mode of that. It wasn't specifically to the fiction realm. So, all right. Okay. When you do this, something that when you watch the KDP episode, we talk about, you know, inputting these things. Make sure you're paying attention that if your old stuff, delete your old stuff first, and then go in, hit edit book details, and you're going to update categories. And there at the bottom, you're going to have a window come up. Inside that window at the very bottom, like fine print, it's going to have your current categories you may have selected if you're updating your book that you've already loaded. And you're going to remove those and you're going to start fresh.
And that's great, but maybe screenshot it too, because they might be
better,
a good start. You know, you're going to go deeper into it now with the placement, but at least you'll be like, oh yeah, I really need to go to romance paranormal. That's my category, subcategory, so that's a place to start. Mm-hmm. But if you don't delete it, then you try to add, you're like, nope, you got to delete 2 others first before you can do this. And you're like, what is going on? I haven't added 3 categories. So that's because you already had 2 that were existing.
Yeah. So like talking about that, things that are already existing, you also want to make sure that you're avoiding certain keywords that are covered elsewhere. So something that Amazon suggests is if your book is in a lot of areas, like Catherine's is, you want to make sure that you avoid using your metadata, like your title. No one's going to technically search your title like in your keywords, because if they're going to search your title, it's going to come up. They're going to type in Catherine Horsley and they're going to type in the name of your book.
Same thing
So
with categories.
don't waste your time in that as a keyword.
Yeah, so if you got romance, paranormal, vampire book, don't use it. You already got it in your categories. You know, be a
Right,
little
but
more
you
specific.
don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste it in your
Keywords.
keywords. Yes, words already mentioned. Like I said, in your categories, like you just said there, you don't want to mention paranormal as itself. You can mention paranormal vampire book series if that would work for you, but don't just throw paranormal
Paranormal.
on that. Yeah, you want to make sure it's this. This is your opportunity to put a search in, like your search engine in there. So you want to make, yeah, like you said earlier, don't make claim to subject matters. So like, don't put in their best novel ever, because no one's looking that up.
Yeah, if you think you're tricking the, Amazon into throwing you at the top, they're not.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and you want to also avoid like time sensitive things. You don't want to put in there like on sale, Amazon deals. Don't waste that one of your 7 or keywords. Don't waste that
In the
opportunity.
beginning of KDP, I'm sure they cared, but everybody was putting, like, if you wrote a little teenage wizard book, everyone was using Harry Potter as a keyword, thinking they would get people to watch that. That is not allowed anymore. I remember us doing that back in like 2008 or 9. It was fine back then, but boom, then it was like, nope. They were deleted and we had to start over.
Yeah. Something that you want to make sure that you are doing is spelling correctly. Make sure you're spelling the words properly. So spelling errors, because if your keyword and you spell series wrong or serial killer wrong, you're going to maybe end up on the box of Frosted Flakes instead of an actual book.
And people used to do that. They're like, oh, for a keyword, I'm going to misspell vampire 3 different ways. So if people misspell it when they search, they'll find my book.
And you're wasting your space.
You're wasting space. You only have 7 spots. Do not waste it.
Well, but there is something when we go into doing more the like the advertising and stuff with KDP, there are options when you're running an ad. So if you ever go on Amazon and you search a book and it says sponsored, you see that all those sponsored ads first before they get to your stuff.
That's paid ad.
Those are ads, yes. And some of them aren't expensive. Some of them can be more expensive. But when you're creating those ads, and I did this before as an experiment, you do need to spell the words wrong there. You do need to change the way words are spelled, and you could do it as many as you want. There are options for that, and we'll get into that later. But that's where spelling errors do come into play, because certain things, are spelled wrong. But that's a whole different thing. All right. So, and I would say with AI anymore, when you spell something wrong, it's probably going to correct the way it's spelled anyways for you. It knows what you're doing. So variants of spacing, punctuation, capitalization, and pluralization. So say you're doing something that has a number, like say it's like a weight, like I need a 10-pound weight. Do you do a 10, a space, and then the LB, or do you put it next to the 10? So you got to remember that is keys too. Are you putting a period after? Are you putting a space after things? So if your title has words and letters mixed together, or numbers, letters and words,
yeah.
if they have numbers in your title, and you got to make sure you're spacing that correctly. Sometimes when you're putting that in as your keyword search, maybe you're talking about 10,000 leagues under the sea or whatever. You've got to make sure that you're spacing it correctly when you're utilizing that.
Yeah, I mean, order of 5 purposely misspelled. It's the number 5, IVE, which I won't use that as a keyword because it's the title of the book. But, you have to pay attention to all that.
Sorry, I just what is happening here? My computer was being really weird. All right. Brands that you do not own or you're not authorized to use. So don't put in there. Yeah. Don't put in Twilight because it's not your book. Yeah. Don't put in like a different author's name because
you will get flagged.
You will get flagged. Quotation marks and search items like single word phrases. You You don't want to use those and find, you don't want to take, because nobody's going to maybe know exactly what's in your book yet. But at the same time, key phrases are not keywords. That's not, it's not scrubbing your title, or it's not scrubbing your book to find phrases in it to find that phrase in your book. Go on a Google search and find it that way, but not on Amazon book search. Don't use KDP Select, and don't use Kindle Unlimited, because you can filter those words whenever you type in your, when a customer is typing in the look for your book, they can put in Kindle Unlimited. They can put in like Kindle books or print books. They can add those extra filters. So don't put those in your
Yeah, I mean, the system already knows if you're in KDP Select, so you adding a keyword is just a waste of time. It's kind of frowned upon. You're already in there. It's not going to up your rankings in KDP Select.
Yeah, and I mean, it will definitely confuse customers too, like when they're trying to search things. Excuse me. Don't put HTML tags. Don't put your website stuff in there. So things that may be something you think are important and you want people to search is not necessarily what people will search. So you have to get through that mindset that this is what I want people to search when they're looking for my book. It may not be the exact thing that they're going to type in. So hold on here. Okay. So another thing that Amazon gives as a point is that customers are more likely to skim past long titles. I don't know, when you're looking for things, do you do that?
I usually, if it's a subtitle, I may read it. But yeah, I've seen some ridiculously long titles. I'm like, ugh, nope.
Yeah. Keywords. So, like I said before, settings, character, plot themes, things like that. Keep all those main things in point and like play around with them on Amazon. So if your book is available in a different format, like audio or Kindle, search those out and put those at the end of your your keywords, and see if that changes, because some people don't realize that they may be looking for a book, but is it on audio as well? Is it in print version? So make sure that when you're trying your keywords, you put that in your little search engine when you're looking to see how many books come up. So
good.
Yeah, this is a pretty cut and dry episode.
But it's going to get funner. I mean, when we get into Author Central and talk about how you can use HTML to explain your book and your description, so those will be fun episodes. But there's a lot goes in. This is just the start to get your book published and make sure that it's found among the sea of other vampire books or whatever you may be writing. But definitely take time with picking your categories and your keywords.
Yeah, and we don't want to discourage you from writing something that's got a large pool of authors. We just want to get you prepared that you are going to have a little harder time finding your niche in which your book will be searched. So that might be your biggest task after you've published is figuring that out while you're waiting for it to be edited and all that other stuff. So kind of gives you a little bit of downtime play. So, all right. So I open this episode. You get to close it.
Oh, well, if you want to reach out to us, go to Always Write Podcast. That's all, ALLWAYSWRITE podcast @gmail.com.
Nice.
If you have any questions. I mean, if you want some help, if you want to say, hey, what do you think about these keywords? We're more than happy to help you. Go to alwayswritepodcast.com. Honestly, it's the best way to find us anywhere. I always forget where we're at. Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. So all the links.
Apple Music Apple.
I always forget Apple Music. Because I don't use these, sir. I do, because you're always like, you better be listening. But I have them, but I'm not on Spotify a lot, probably because I'm always teaching. But yeah, if you're like, man, I wish I could find them on YouTube, and you're searching on YouTube, you can find us pretty easy. But that's the simplest way to do it. Go to alwayswritepodcast.com. And then, there you go. And while you're there, go ahead and go into Vendera Publishing and check out all those wonderful books that we've written.
Yes.
So, yes. And we're writing more.
All right.
And
As
Catherine's got a
always,
4th book coming out. Already said that earlier.
yes, we did say that. Yes, we're excited for that. All right. As always, thank you for listening. And I am author Carissa DeLay, and this is my co-host,
Jamie Vendera. And we'll see you in the next podcast.
Thanks for listening.